She have to be up here by all. She's the minister of all. She's going to put her. Look at it. All the way. Yeah, two separate offices, I took in my opinion.
I understand.
Yeah, that's one. Gets around. All right, call the meeting to order. Pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first item on the agenda is Sheriff Dillon.
Okay, so on the 911 budget, what you have there is the complete budget, memorized. And then our issue is we're gonna fall about $44,000 to $45,000 negative in the 911 budget. Currently, we bring in about 31.5 from the state. That's not enough even to cover just the dispatchers alone. So what we're requesting is to move 3 of them for a total of 78.4 to the ARPA fund. And then that will finish us out for the 2020 year.
Are we expecting things to be back to normal next year?
No, we're gonna have to figure something out. 31.5 is what we get in from the state, period.
We'll play with it at budget workshop, Mark.
They've been basically living off of their cash balance for the past couple of years and just dwindling that down, and it's finally to the point where it's gone.
Okay.
There'll be some legislation this year too that'll help with that.
Yeah, why do we get 31.5? Do you know why we are allotted that amount?
Yeah, it's just a metric that they
It
use to
is.
get it there. It's flawed. I was talking to Mark and Brian a little before the meeting. I mean, we went through this originally when we started to peel that away, but it's flawed. You know, the same thing's gonna happen with gas tax, and electric cars. Fortunately. Cell phones, wired phones went to cell phones, and that's what totally messed it up. And so the offset is, it's not a fair offset at this point.
We're gonna have to do something. See that, we move that into the ARPA and work on restructuring.
So I'll entertain a motion to approve the use of $78,400 from ARPA funds. Motion and a second. All are in favor?
Aye.
Nice. All right.
Will you let me know which thing you're gonna be moving so we can move them on the paper? Starting, have you done your paper?
All right.
Let's start right
David and Rhonda Toth. Come on down. You have pictures to look at?
So,
I know there's a lot more pressing issues in Stark County other than easements at Bass Lake. But that being said, you see the pictures, a couple pictures I've taken. It seems like as the years go by, more and more, the adjoining property owners on the public access are pinching the public access off. As you can see in that picture there, 500 south, they're actually have their wood pile and their docks and lockers. And this past February, a couple ice fishermen trying to use 500 south. Now I walk a lot, and they're struggling to get their ice fishing equipment into the lake. And they said, well, we can only put our ice fishing equipment in public access. I said, correct.
Mhm.
They did not realize that 400, 450 south where I live on is public access because there's no sign there. I don't know what roads are supposed to have signage, but the few that do, this one's blocked. 450 is not visible. I don't know if Maple Street is public access or not. There's no sign there. Same thing with Western Avenue. So I'm just trying to get clarification. What is public access and what is not?
okay.
We like the signs, because, I mean, because we've seen a couple signs that do say public access. We don't know if that's it, or,
All right, so this is, I mean, we're seeing this at both lakes now. I'd like to get to the point where, so I mean, since we've had, having such a problem, put signage on either, find out how wide these accesses are supposed to be, and then put a sign on either side of it, so it's clear that in between those signs and to the shoreline, it's clear.
that would be awesome, because on where ours at, they kind of put their signs, which I think they have to, because it's the end of the highway, there's an arrow,
Yeah,
because we back the truck up to unload the kayaks. So your idea of each side is perfect. Yeah.
It's gotten to the point where the adjoining property on 450 south, I know the lake is public lake. There you're allowed to pull your lily pads out in front of your house. He went to the adjoining property, which is the public access last fall, along with the pads out of public access.
But you should like to fish, you want the blue pads. Bring
And
them.
it is what it is, but like I said, there's more pressing issues in Stark County, but it seems to be getting worse and worse. I walk a lot and I can see where on Western Avenue, they put their docks in there, they have pinched that out. But if you didn't know any better, you assume that that was their property because they put their docks and pinched it.
And we did find out too that the county does not mow that area. So I think the people who are taking care of it, neighbors, are kind of thinking it's theirs because they're taking care of it. They're mowing it, and you know, I mean, I'd be more than happy to do ours if they want to get someone say, okay, you take care of this property and mow it or whatever.
so what are our options for enforcement?
So it doesn't really look like the public access with regard to this particular transgression is the issue. It's just somebody putting their logs and other pieces of wood, whatever
Debris,
that is. debris
tires,
there.
everything.
I mean, it's right behind the no public access sign that they put it. So it's really just, maybe we think we're taking care of it. We think, maybe even mistakenly so, that it's our property,
Right,
which obviously is the case. And like Mark said, we've had this issue with, we sent out love letters last week to people in Coons
Right.
Lake to say, quit encumbering, it actually wasn't public access. So it's the same thing. Are you pretty sure? I know there's an address provided on here that is the person doing it that lives at this address that was in the
The
email.
dock itself is their dock because they took part of the
Yeah,
dock.
part of
and
it's
put
in
it
the water
it's
now,
in the
part's
water,
still there.
I mean, it's still on.
Okay, if you're sure that that's the person, I'll send a letter to that. And it could be, they just, could be a friendly mistake. They thought it was theirs because they mow it.
I agree, and I looked at the GIS survey and started looking at the computer exactly where that property line is.
It's a fairly common problem. You see it a lot, obviously with campaign signs, people not understanding that just because something is maintained by a property owner, they don't understand that that's.
but it's not that we're just on this. I mean, we have lived here full time now for 4 years. So this has been something we've seen, and it
It's
just keeps
progressive.
getting worse.
I'll send a letter, just letting them know that, this is county easement, they're not to put any personal items on that property without county permission or county leave to do so, which we don't ordinarily grant, so.
We would like it if they would just be marked, the roads that are public access. Awesome.
Amy, is that something you can look into as far as getting signs marking either side of?
Yeah,
easements
once we
and
find out,
accesses to the lake? Once you find out where they're supposed to be, where they're
Yes.
supposed to go?
Once we find out where they're at, we'll get them marked.
And then remedying areas that are being encroached.
Yep, would encourage anybody that sees public access, or either public access or public easement that's being encroached upon, because we've got to enforce it universally, to come forward and let us know. And again, I like subscribing ignorance more than malicious intent, perhaps they just don't know. So it's easy enough just to send out a letter to these property owners and say, hey, county property, I mean, maintenance isn't really the issue here, it's.
Yeah.
So, thank you for bringing it forward, and I'd encourage anybody if they see it, because it's.
We know
common
it's such a
problem.
minor thing, but we've just seen the progression of it, just a slight bit to now the whole thing is unusable.
Sure. Appreciate the pictures, that is helpful.
Awesome,
Thank you much.
thank you.
Eric, you're up.
This is not the company, a new company, I think it's generated for the people. But as you can tell, I added on the backside the whole time that they have had us, that they generated per month. It gives you an idea where you're at. And you can small claims.
I've received from small claims, amount of $25.
This is for all here, what you just see.
And received from O'Hare, $860.12.
Any questions?
How are, as far as run volume goes?
I'll go over that.
Okay.
Good morning. I do want to announce that this week is actually 2022 EMS week for all EMS workers in flight, and there's food going on every day this week. So stop by Medic 3 base, see everybody. Different people are bringing in food all week, and should be a good week. Let's hope. My monthly report is very short. We're up full staff on EMTs. We're short 3 paramedics, 2 that left recently, 1 with the state EMS inspector. The other one took a job at Napanee Fire. With that being said, we're still actively looking for paramedics. It seems right now the paramedics are filling in as we need. Training wise, we provided a lot of training recently to OD schools for their staffing for CPR and first aid. And we're actually holding monthly trainings for the community at the library here in Knox. We already held 1 and we already have 2 more signed up for June. So that we're being proactive in the community teaching. Safety wise, we have 1 advanced EMT out with a back injury. He has another follow-up with Health Link tomorrow. Hopefully get cleared. We'll see what happens from there. All the trucks are up and running. The only thing I have to say is last night I got called at 8 o'clock. A power supply to one of our radios and quit completely. Medic 5 base now has a temporary fix thanks to Matt Newton, who's our communications guy. I'm gonna have to try to research to find where I can get one. Matt says a couple $100, but we'll figure that out when we get there. Other than that, I have nothing else on the monthly. The second page I gave you was what Nancy gave you as well. It's a breakdown of the months that we've had Acumen for billing. And it breaks down the run volume. I have not confirmed these with Stacy from dispatch. This is what Acumen's saying that we've turned in report wise. As you see in April, we ran 192 calls. Gross charges were just short of just over $182,000. And we were able to bring in $68,925.23. And Nancy gave you a copy of that, confirming that is what they. As you see, March was the busiest month at 243 calls. And we generated $242,000 in billing. We were paid $48,601.
So when are we gonna recruit the rest of that? Or are we?
Well,
That's a big difference between 242 and 48.
yes, I agree with you. Some of it is, I would like to think we have an issue when someone does a transport, like from a hospital to hospital. The 911 calls, those are simple. We only have 2 reports out. I get a daily, how many are out, and I get on them, like, why is this? We have a rule 24 hours to get it done.
Right.
The transfers, when you do transfer from Starke to LaPorte or wherever, they give you a transfer form and a face sheet, and they're supposed to scan it in. The form has to be filled out by the nurse. We cannot touch it. If we touch it and automatically gets rejected by Acumed, I have to take another blank one back to the hospital, have them refill it out. If they're not attached, not filled out, they send me a notice. There's days I can get none, there's days I can get 11. Right now I have 1 outstanding. When I first took over in October, I had 33. So, like to think we're staying on top of the billing. As far as recouping it, that's on Acumen. I can't answer for them. I know that we're staying on top of our part.
This is, I mean, our receipts are an order of magnitude lower than our gross charges going back to before the beginning of the year.
Right.
Doesn't do us any good to rack up charges if we're not gonna collect it. Yeah, if it's with Acumen or if it's with processing the paperwork, I mean, let's try to get this gap shortened within the next couple months.
Yes, sir.
Because that's the longer that goes on, the bigger the problem it's gonna be. Anything else?
That is it for me.
Any questions?
You don't want to go over, I have you on the agenda for
Oh, yeah,
work
yeah.
holidays and vacation.
Yeah,
pay.
that was Justin and I. You're right. I'm sorry. Thank you. So
Do you know off the top of your head how long, because I can't remember how long the contract is?
that was prior to me. I do not know.
I know. I just remembered 3 years, 5 years. I think we went 5 years because it was cheaper in the long, or it generated, we got to keep more money revenue wise going 5 years, but we'd have to go back and look. Was it 5? Okay. So anyway, sick days,
Sorry. One more thing.
vacation days.
Yeah, sick day, vacation day. 2 months ago, we spoke about sick day, vacation day, 1 day EMS is equal to 1 day in the office. And Justin brought up concern that he wanted in the booklet that EMS works 48 hours a week. And I also went above that and I broke down. I know you do a percentage, like a point something for time off. If it's as simple as 0 to 2 years, you get 2 days. When I say 3 to 6, you get 4, 7 to 10 is 6, and then 11 plus, you're capped out at 8 days off. I actually submitted that to Justin. He has a copy right there.
Yeah.
You have a copy too. Same thing for sick time. I think you said it's capped out at
You can bank 30.
30, and I said half of that. Then I said 15. To be fair, because I do not feel that we're above it. I want to make sure we're all equal. All I was asking for is 1 day, 1 day. Sick days, same thing. I know 30 days is 900 hours basically. If I did the math real quick in my head. I only want 15 days. I think a month and a half off sick time. You have FMLA if you need it. There are those options out there as well. But that's what I proposed to Justin.
One of the things, 'cause Rachel and I have been talking about it too, that we probably need to codify in the employee handbook, which I've read, is it talks about the accrual rate, but it doesn't really specify. So when you look, so 8 days actually works out to the way that they're scheduled 4 weeks if they're 11 plus years, but it probably needs spelled out. It's not a problem with Eric because he understands it, but if you later in time, let's say we get a director that says, all right, well, we only schedule 2 24-hour shifts a week. So you take your vacation Monday and Tuesday, but we're going to schedule a Friday and Saturday because you really only work 2 days. I think it probably needs to be codified for their protection. We talked about that they only work in the handbooks. It doesn't actually specify 2 24-hour shifts per week because you can see how there can be a little gamesmanship there later. It really defeats the whole purpose if they want to take their week off and they're only getting 2 days that accrue in the first year when you're 5-day week employees are getting 5, so we understand the reason it's done that way, but we need to put in the employee handbook that, again, that this is presuming that they're only scheduled 2 shifts per week at 48 hours and it doesn't state that in the employee handbook. It may state that in their SOPs, but it doesn't state it in our employee handbook. So I think that's one of the fixes. The other thing is, whereas your 5-day week employees are working 40 hours a week, 35, they're working 48 hours. So your accrual rate is actually running at straight time for them, where technically speaking, since they're not getting overtime pay, that it probably should run at a greater rate, the accrual time to accrue that extra time to compensate for that extra, 13 hours we're talking about over and above, or 8 hours beyond the standard 40-hour work week, 13 hours above just your regular employees. So that's probably another problem that we need to fix, because if they're working 8 hours longer than the standard work week and they're not being compensated, even though they may be exempt employees, we probably should correct that. Whether that's a greater accrual rate for those extra 8 hours, that's one way of doing it. These are all things that I can't do without your guys' blessing, but it's something we've been talking about. Rachel and I and Eric have brought these up, so that's kind of where we're at.
I think we both agree on what he presented, other than the 30 days, it'd be 15 days that they could bank up.
How does this differ from, say, Danny's drivers that work shifts, that work odd shifts, or Bill's deputies that work similar shift work?
We're all more, after 1 year, we get 5 days. After 2 years, we get 10 days. After 3 years, it's just, if we gave them 5 days after 1 year, that's a month of vacation for his department.
Now, this is going to be similar to what sheriff's department does, or am I wrong?
They, and Pam might be able to help me with Julie.
Yeah.
They're a special type of employee. Don't quote me on this. So like a 7K employee is what it's called. So they've got different hours
Right.
that are computed over a 4-week, 2-week, however you guys do it. So that they work a little bit differently because statutorily they're classified as a 7K employee versus EMS employees, which are not a 7K employee because they're not, they're a first responder. They're not an officer first responder.
Right.
So a little bit different.
This is basically equal to what all other employees are getting. This would be equal to what all.
We weren't doing it incorrectly before. I just think for their protection, if Eric, 5 years from now, Eric's not here, he leaves, seeks other employment, you get a new director in there that's maybe has an axe to grind and they play the game. Well, you took your 2 days on Monday and Tuesday, but I'm going to schedule you on Thursday and Friday. It kind of defeats the purpose of having a week off. And since we classify it not based on weeks of vacation, we do it in an actual accrual rate point, so many hours, per hour worked. I think that, again, it's just codifying what we've already been doing in practice. I just think it protects them longer term, but whatever you want to do with the sick days per Eric's recommendation, I can change that as needed.
I think we need to draft up some changes to reflect
Mhm.
this and get that done and have it for us to look at
Sure.
within the month.
Like what it's gonna look like in the handbook, changing the
yeah,
handbook.
yeah.
Okay.
And yeah. Do have some handbook changes.
Okay.
For us to take a look at.
I have one more point.
Okay.
This is the work holidays portion. You guys approved the sheriff's department officers that work holidays on the weekends. Example, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day is Saturday, Sunday this year. Office people get the holiday on Friday and Monday. And it was approved by the commissioners that they're allowed to be, your holiday is your holiday worked, so Saturday, Sunday. I am asking for the same, for it to be allowed the same way that if, as a paramedic or EMT, if I'm scheduled Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, that is my holiday. Because if a EMT gets paid for Friday, they're not gonna work Saturday or Sunday with your holidays. And then obviously it's gonna be hard to fill those spots. But I think holidays should be worked, like every other one is worked as it's Memorial Day, Labor Day, Thanksgiving, Christmas and Christmas Eve this year are actually Saturday, Sunday. Same thing with New Year's Day. You guys approved it before in 2020. Rachel gave me a copy of that. I actually have it on my desk. Sorry to bring it. All I'm asking is for the same.
You haven't changed it, then it's still the same.
You
But
only approved it for, not you, you only approved it for the sheriff's department.
yes,
Oh, okay.
So you, just so I'm understanding this correctly, is like, say the holiday for the government is Thursday and Friday. You don't want holiday pay for those 2 days, but you want holiday pay for whatever the holiday is, which could be Saturday and Sunday.
this year it is Saturday, Sunday, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. County recognizes it Friday and Monday.
So you don't want to do Friday, and Monday, you
No.
want to do Saturday, Sunday.
Saturday, Sunday. The guys and ladies that actually work it, that is their holiday. They should be paid on that holiday. Same thing with the sheriff's department. All I'm asking is for the same.
Yeah, it does. I want some more clearer language, because I'm not sure how to extract the proper wording out of all that, but
Do you want Eric to send you what was approved
yes,
last time,
yes,
and then you can revisit it next month?
right.
Okay.
Okay. I will do that. And that's all I have. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Rachel.
Super, Danny. A lot of paperwork. All right. Okay, as far as personnel goes at the highway department, currently we're at 12 full-time CDL drivers. We just recently had one driver go from full-time to part-time role. So we lost him. We had, transferred him, so he's out mowing today. So we have 4 positions for full-time drivers. I just had a part-time driver give her notice today. So we're down to 3 part-time CDL drivers, 2 mechanics, and 1 employee that's going to get tested for their CDL within 2 weeks. We did hire 5 people for the mowing crew. We still have an open position there. We actually have 3 mowers out on the roads today mowing. The rest are gonna start on Monday, next Monday. Our asset manager turned her notice in, so this Friday is her last day. So we reviewed the description for that, and that's gonna go out. Hopefully this week we'll get it out and advertise for her position. Last meeting, we had a discussion about the mechanics and changing their title. So we reviewed the job descriptions and rewrote that. And I have their current pay range on this sheet. So we used to have a shop foreman. We don't have that position or anybody in that position. So we're changing it to lead mechanic.
This mechanic report two needs to change.
I think I gave you guys bad copies. Here is the.
No, this is the same.
Is it the same? Okay. So what is your question?
The report two on this mechanic job description. Third line down.
Oh, yes, that needs to be. changed. Yeah, it should be. So the lead mechanic will have all the responsibilities as a regular mechanic, plus the essential job functions. As far as ordering everything, taking inventory, figuring out the priority of the work schedule in the shop.
This is.
Yeah, that's a current pay rate right now.
Can I motion to approve these revised job descriptions as presented? Motion and second, all in favor?
Okay, next, grant status. Community crossing 22-1. Right now, we're in the process of advertising the paving project. I don't have confirmation yet of when the advertising dates are gonna be listed. So it is in the works. Community crossing 21-2. That's the paving project on 700 East from Highway 8 down to 625 South. This project is just a couple weeks away. Reith Riley is hoping to be there June 1st to start paving. On the week of 5/23, so next week, there's 2 culverts on that road that we need to go in and replace. So we'll go in and replace the culverts a week ahead of time. And then, like I say, somewhere June 1st, Reith Riley should be coming in. We're gonna lay wedges the whole 5 miles, and then they'll come back and we'll start paving in mile increments. So there will be a little, the roads will be closed from time to time. When we're laying wedges, we should have it down to 1 lane.
So. It should be finished. And Ruth Riley, last week they were having all sorts of problems with farmers. It was so hot, the asphalt wasn't setting up. Before they could get the road done, there was tire marks on it, so that delayed them a little bit, but they're telling me June 1st, they should be here starting this project.
Since this is under grant stuff, with the impending departure of your asset manager and the recent departure of our EMA director, how are we looking as far as all the necessary ADA paperwork being submitted, so we don't jeopardize any future grants?
I am not 100% certain. The plan, he did have it completed. We have to find out where we're at within that. So, I was told, Eric's still here. I was told Eric was gonna head that up.
Okay.
He's gonna head it up.
Actually, Eric mentioned to me that if we had that communications meeting the other day, we talked about maybe looking into having a sort of a second in command, but they would strictly deal with communications. In the past, I don't want to rope Bill into this because we didn't prep any at all on this one. In the past, we had talked about maybe having a part-time person that just fixed radios. But I actually mentioned to Eric that actually we hadn't gone past that because originally that would have come from the sheriff's budget, a regular person. It's probably been 2 years ago we talked about that, sort of pre-COVID. And then at a recent meeting, Richard was there. We talked about the possibility of a person that was EMA too, but also was a radio person. Possibly could have been Matt Newton even, was one of the things we talked about. But I haven't really talked to the sheriff yet, but I mentioned to Eric that would be a person working on radios was what we talked about in our communications, right? Correct?
Right, well, my thought behind the EMA too was, we get so much allotted funds from the state for the EMA positions.
Yes.
That could help with that.
Previous directors didn't want to do the paperwork. And
Right.
so that would be something that would be for fiscal 23, but remember, we couldn't get them to do the full amount of paperwork for the second, for the admin or whatever for EMA. There's paperwork that's required for that. Previous directors did not want to do that in EMS, but Eric's saying that he would be interested.
We're
in
talking
doing it.
about ADA. Eric doesn't have anything to do with ADA right now, though.
No,
He
but
was talking about being the backup EMA person, but the thing was that the person we talked about in the communications meeting, which Eric
That could be
attended,
your backup.
was the-
EMA person.
was the backup EMA person was a radio person, not a backup ADA at that time, but obviously that person would back the EMA director up. So, but I don't think Eric would qualify with what we were thinking of because we were thinking of a radio person. But in actuality, the radio person probably makes more sense being under the sheriff's department and a sidebar to IT.
For
but
our ADA stuff, I mean, you have to be have your certificate. So really,
Correct.
we need
Eric's
to do
not certified.
consultants over trying to get somebody else roped into
We're
that.
looking for a new EMA director right
Right.
now. We've got one person that applied, but we're already telling them they are gonna be the ADA team.
But between now and then, we gotta make sure nothing falls off with ADA, so we don't miss out on grants for him.
It'd be better if we used a consultant rather than trying to get Eric trained in ADA over the next 6 months.
Right.
Yeah.
Agreed.
If there's a gap, it would make more sense for the consultant because we're still gonna have to train it
So-
unless we get an EMA director that is already certified.
So
Right.
let's find out what that needs, that we still need to do.
I know we promised in the second quarter, we would have things
That's
tied up, and that's now.
right. So see if that, the documents that Joe had gotten together that just hadn't been submitted yet suffice for NDOT's requirements. And we'll see about getting those properly submitted.
I'm with Dan. We were told that everything was done. So hopefully we have some breathing room for right now.
Right.
But you're right, we need to not drop the ball on that.
Okay,
So there's already been a couple other things. that we're saying.
I'll follow up on that. I do have our annual operations report that I do need signatures from. We have to submit this to LTAB, and this is part of our reporting to, it goes to LTAB and then NDOT looks at it.
I'll entertain a motion to accept the annual operation report.
So moved.
Get a motion and second, all in favor?
Do you need them to sign it, or do you have it?
Charlie's on that eventually.
I can run it out together. Okay, here, I only made one set of pictures, but the picture on top is the new used service truck that we bought last month. The bottom photo is called a total patcher. Basically, it's a mini chip seal machine on wheels. If you look at the pictures behind it, or yeah, you take a look at these pictures, you see the pothole and what it looks like when we get done. There should be one more sheet. So it's just like a chip seal road when you drive on it. Right after it's been patched, you're gonna hear a few stones, but a day or two, it blends right in with the road itself. Right now I've rented this machine for a month, $4,200. I can purchase this machine for $20,000. I suggest we go ahead and purchase it, and he'll take the rental price off of the payment. And for $2,000 more, I can put a crack seal hose on this. So we can go out and crack seal the roads, and that's by far the cheapest way to help protect the roads.
So this type of patch hold up pretty good, or?
Holds up really well. St. Joe County has 2 of these machines, and they did it in front of my house, and it held beautiful through the winter.
You know how old this machine is? No, look.
I can tell you that it's got 1,900 hours on it, and we're purchasing it from the manufacturer. He had it in his rental fleet, and NDOT just used it for a month and returned it.
Will they go for brand new?
60 to 70,000.
Slightly used.
You said they're gonna take the, would you say 4,200 off that 20,000 off?
Yes,
We're talking about under $25,000 in total.
Yes.
how much?
You were talking about under 25 total.
Yes.
We're okay with a straight purchase then, since we're.
Yeah, assuming you don't need any other. You got the equipment budget to take care of it?
Yes,
All right,
we're fine there.
go for it.
Okay, next. We spent $20,000 last week in transmissions. On dump trucks. That included 3 dump trucks. One has a complete new. It's got a new rebuilt transmission coming.
Okay.
The other 2 have electrical issues, and that's about $3,500 to repair those trees. The truck that's getting the rebuilt transmission is a 2005. So we're looking at getting a new dump truck. So on the top of that sheet that I just handed you, you can see the international was 210,000. Freightliner is 223. So we did a little looking into leasing trucks because our tandem fleet is so old. I can rent, or I can lease 2 tandem trucks with a payment of 94,000 for the next 5 years. And they're ours at the end of the 5 years. There's no penalty for mileage. And first of all, we won't get these trucks till next year, probably August. But that would give us 2 new tandem trucks to put into the fleet.
It looks like. Got 12 tandem trucks now, 4 single line. What you have?
No,
No, the opposite of that.
we have 12
This is
single.
his current. This is what he's
Oh, okay.
trying to get.
So that's the goal, is to get up to 12 tandem trucks.
We get at least these trucks then. Every,
Is there, yeah,
what kind of price tag? I had
is there an option to buy after?
No, they're ours after 5 years. This is a lease to own.
Okay.
So they will be property of Starke County. So there's no penalty on mileage.
Mark? I met with Dan a couple of times about this and just looked over the financials of it. It does actually look like it makes a lot of sense. The only thing was kind of working towards that, having, such a large fleet of tandems. Because I was telling Dan also, I talked to a couple of other counties where they have more tandems, but they have a lot wider intersections. And also the tandems, they'd be take-home vehicles, then, they do a little bit more damage in driveways and things like that. But I think the idea that Dan had was to kind of start out increasing the tandems to see if it made a lot of sense. But financially, what he came up with made sense.
How do you feel about the 2 or 4?
2 or 4 as in the number to buy.
Yes.
That's why I asked that we just do 2 to try it first, try the lease program first. And then, proceed. Based on the inventory, it looked like things were doable. And then as far as I'm concerned, the $20,000 transmission is a lot less than a $210,000 truck. So
Well, if you did 4, I mean, that pretty much uses up your entire equipment budget. You wouldn't be able to buy anything else
Correct.
that
That's
you might
why,
use.
that's why we're going into. That leaves room in the budget to get other purchases that we need.
We're gonna need some newer mowers too,
Yes.
definitely.
Have you looked into that this year?
We looked at some mower decks. I haven't priced any tractors.
Do you want them to price some tractors?
I would say.
Truck will take full bidding requirements because it's more than 150K. The proposal will have to publish notice twice in the newspaper.
But
Kind of like
the lease option would not,
if it's a lease to buy, then
okay,
it
still
would
would,
still trigger the, yes.
We,
because
We
this
would-
number here, the 2 truck leases, 93. Or
Talking about gross price of 421.3. And I'm being especially careful because it seems like every week from the Indiana, Illinois fair bidding people, I'm getting requests because of our solar projects. So we just have to be exceptionally careful. Not that we aren't always, but I'll get a request for it.
okay, I priced 2 different makes of trucks through Sourcewell. So when you go through Sourcewell, you don't have to go through public bidding.
No, I've never seen that. I've had companies try telling me that before, and I've never found, I mean, could be right, but I've never seen that happen. I've had people tell me that before with regard to other towns that, well, since we're a publicly sourced agency or we're on the list for that particular state, you don't have, I mean, you can still keep those and count those towards the bid to solicit. But as far as I know, I think we still have to go through full bidding requirements for it.
well, then you 2 talk and then come back next month with a procedure we can actually go through and be compliant. Get the 2 trucks leased.
Next is, I need signatures. Where the green tape is. This is for the land acquisition on corners of 2 and 4 for bridge number 7.
We've already made approvals for this, correct? Or is this-
Yes, that you just have to sign.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything was already, you already had a motion in the record.
You'll probably have to sign next month for corners 1 and 3. They didn't have that paperwork ready yet.
Just need 1 signature. For all 3.
You know, I didn't look.
It's probably all 3 because there's 3 different people that you're have to purchase property from. Amanda, are you on there? Do you know? 3 signatures?
3 signatures on the land one. It just needed 1 where the green tape was.
Okay, so 2 different areas.
Yes, there was 2 different parcels in there.
Thanks, Amanda.
You're welcome.
Well, I told her Pam comes to Bill.
You got her so busy, she can't even
Oh,
afford
I
to
know,
take the
she-
time to drive from the garage to here.
She is quite busy. There's no doubt about that. Very fortunate to have. Now. Okay, next, gravel roads. We are currently, we're finishing up the second go around on grading the gravel roads. We have purchased and applied over 1,500 tons of stones on gravel roads this year. That sounds like a lot, but it breaks down to like 20 tons per road.
How many miles does that get us?
There were somewhere around 70 miles of gravel roads. So. Some roads got more than others, but for the most part, I think they're in pretty good shape.
Okay.
As far as 5S and working around the shop, we organized the northwest corner of our yard. We had a bunch of cement blocks sitting around. We went ahead and built some walls with them and had the stone organized in the back of the yard there. So when you drive by, our stone yard looks open because we moved piles and have it organized. As far as road maintenance goes, right now, we're cutting brush back in Oregon Township. We're continuing to patch holes all over. We discussed a total patcher machine that we rented that for a month and we've been out using that on some roads. Next week, we're gonna replace 6 culverts in the next 2 weeks throughout the county. 2 of them being on 700 East for the community crossings. We replaced 1 culvert already in the solar field on at the intersection of 400 East and 700 South there. Mowing crews are out going on the roads now. We'll be weeding this week as well. We made up over 1,000 tons of cold plug already. We're gonna mix up all day tomorrow. So hopefully after Memorial Day, we're gonna be out with the wedge, making wedges on roads, getting them ready to go to be chip sealed. So just to talk a little bit about what we're going to be able to do this summer. The goal in the 10-year plan, we would hope to cover every road within 10 years. So with that plan, there's 640 paved miles in Starke County. We need to cover 64 miles a year. All right, we're running a little short on that. The projection for 2022 is we're going to do 5.25 miles of hot asphalt and 25 miles of chip seal. So that gives us a total of 30 miles. So that's about less than half of what we should be doing to keep up. On 2021, I just showed what we did last year. We got a late start. We didn't get out going until July. This year, we're going to get out going hopefully 1st of June. At the bottom of the page, you can see the chip seal cost per mile. In 2021, it cost us $8,465 a mile. This year, it's going to cost us $11,537, and the majority of that is going to be the cost in the emulsion, the oil. Stone price has gone up a little. So we're just not going to get as much for the buck that we did a year ago. So with that, I was hoping that you guys would consider giving the highway some extra funds out of the ARPA account. And I was hoping for $200,000 a year for the next 3 years. That would give us an extra 17 miles per year. So instead of getting 30 miles, we could get 47.
I don't think if we would do that, it wouldn't actually go into effect until 2023 though, with the way we're working on all the other ARPA stuff.
Right, well, I think it can go on, I think Dan and I talked about this on the wish list. Mark, I have a question about that. Dan, the other thing that we've been talking about a lot is that our base on a lot of our roads is poor. Do you think also it might be worth considering, we talked about that ability to rip it, to cut it and then put riprap down and then twos and then 53, like with that new layer?
Yes.
Is some of that going to be proposed in those also? Because I mean, if you're just going to lay even hot mix on some of these roads, it's not going to last because it moves too much. Trees and dawn, heat.
What I was going to suggest with this money would be, we would just put one layer chip seal down. There's a lot of roads in the county that are pay-as-you rating 5 or 6, where they're kind of on the edge, where if they don't get attention, they're still good roads, but they need attention. I was going to try to put a cap on them and save them for another 5-6 years and then come back.
I would say wish list just so we can prioritize some of the other things. You guys know about some other projects.
But
I don't think it's a bad idea. I'm afraid though, if we start putting a lot of money on some of those and it only lasts a couple of years, then we're.
No, I don't. The roads that need reconstructed that we talked about need grinding and more base added, that's a separate issue that we would have to address. Now I'm going to put these, I'd put this on good roads to preserve good roads.
You got 3 more minutes. Need to get rolling.
Oh, I got a lot to go yet. Okay, so training. Last week we had 6 hours of training by LTAP, 3 hours on chainsaws and 3 hours on drainage. That went well. Solar projects, the Mammoth, we installed the culvert on 700 East. Every week we're going out there grading the dirt roads and we're patching holes with 73 stone. This is what they requested. Yeah, they don't want us using any patch because it's just going to keep tearing the road up. So we just keep patching it with 73s and they just beat the stone down in the hole and help build base. We've had 2 serious complaints about speeding and potholes. Brian went out with me on one of the calls, and we got everything resolved with him. He didn't realize we were out every week patching the holes. The second complaint was speeding past their residence, which I got with Mammoth, and they're more than willing to help. They're putting up the signs for speeding, and they talked with all their truck drivers. So Mammoth has been very good on reacting to any concerns that I might have. Next, Mammoth is moving west of 35 now, so there's gonna be more traffic on the west side of 35. So those people over there will just, they get to see what everyone else has been seeing, so. Next era has, they completed the road and culvert evaluation, so I'm just waiting to get back the report from them on that. Well, I have.
Thank you much. Lisa.
Good morning.
Hello.
Thanks for having us this morning.
So you want the additional 40 grand?
Not the whole thing.
Okay.
You guys in our contract did appropriate 40,000 for economic development type projects. So I have outlined in a allocation request $8,699. So Stark Tank this year. So last few years, Stark Tank has been a North Judson project. Our board said, our executive committee specifically said, if the foundation is going to be involved with Stark Tank, it really needs to be a county-wide effort. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to set up a sponsorship committee to help secure funding for that event.
Remind me, what was the funding last year?
Last year, actually Mary worked very hard, $11,000 in prize money was given out to the top 2 winners.
You're asking for less than half.
We are asking for the county to contribute 5,000, and you guys would be like, it would be co-sponsored between the Stark County government and the Economic Development Foundation. And then we would also be securing funding from hopefully utilities, other small businesses, industry. I've talked to a couple of industry already that are willing to be sponsors for the event. So Mary and I are going to try and take a step back from it as far as the fundraising piece, but we will be putting together a committee to help along with that. So that is our first request for $5,000 out of the 40. It's, you know, we're trying to promote, and that's one of my tabs in our contract, promoting small business. And that is one way that we can do that with this event. And so basically it's for businesses that are here that are less than 3 years old and want to expand, or it's for businesses considering locating in Stark County, anywhere in Stark County. So we think it's a great thing. I think we're going to have a lot of applicants this year. We actually have the Small Business Development Center working with us. They will kind of oversee the presentations and help guide the applicants through that process. So asking for 5,000 out of the 40 for that. Another thing we are working on, which is we really need to do, is a redesign of our website. Working with a local, well, fairly local fellow who can redesign our website for $699, which we think is a pretty reasonable request, or a pretty reasonable price to do that. So $699 for that. And then the other piece that we're working on is a marketing video. And it is actually, so because we want to recognize the importance of quality of place, quality of life, and how everything ultimately is economic development. We want to work on a video that will just show the amenities here, the lakes, the rivers, the Stark County Forest, friendly, welcoming communities as essential components of what we do. Businesses looking to grow or expand in a community are looking for a welcoming place to make an investment, and that includes more
than economic incentives. You know, we're very nicely located between Chicago, South Bend, and Indianapolis. So we think that by putting together a video that maybe someday, not right off the bat, we can actually use as a commercial to get out. I mean, we will market it every way we can, social media wise, and get it out to the towns, the cities, and the county to share as well. But we think that it will be a nice marketing piece for the whole county. And so we are asking for $3,000 of the 40 for that. Also understanding that we have, we did do a grant application for through the CBC and asked for the maximum of $2,000. We don't know if we will get that, but we should know in the next week or so if we will be getting any grant funding towards that 3,000. And if we do, then we would just need the difference in the grant that we might get, and
you'll know on that.
we'll know probably by next week, hopefully. So that is my request from the 40,000.
Thoughts?
And then I'll bring it to the,
Well, we did set that aside.
Dave?
Yeah,
You're involved in those discussions?
Yes, I think the main thing is we're only halfway through, so if it's under 20,000, that is a big thing. I wouldn't want to spend more than half of it right now. I think personally, I guess they've met the requirement of going beyond something that they wouldn't normally do is what you kind of expected on that, so to me, it seems like a valid request.
So, all right, I'll entertain the motion to approve the request for $8,699 by the Economic Development Foundation. So moved. Motion and a second. All are in favor?
40 to spend in what we need, or is it split?
it is,
When you say 40 for we, I mean, it's 40 that's open for economic development. It's not just we. as
I
in
meant
economic
skill.
development.
I thought that was. for-
Not skill. Skill
Okay.
gave us the 40 back. Skill didn't need the
Okay.
money, so that's why we're taking that money and
Okay.
allocating it for economic development.
okay, well, and Janice is asking because in the actual contract, it says, it says additional 40,000 set aside in a fund could be appropriated by the council quarterly for economic development. Other projects, including matching funds for other projects, such projects would include projects proposed by the foundation or skill, is what it says on here.
Okay.
So,
As long as it's not something that you would normally do in your mission for skill. I mean, I
Yeah.
think it's
right,
you know, yours, the skill is a little bit more set than economic development foundation is.
thank you. And then the other thing, just a really quick update, which wasn't really part of the plan, Sabre got a prospect out there looking, they want the whole property. So they are supposed to be going before the redevelopment commission Wednesday to see about that. Toll expects to close a prospect. I don't know who that is yet, but I was told that that will be closing shortly on the toll building. Working with a local couple who wants to open a small machine shop, looking at land for them for that purpose, and excited about that actually. 5 employees, but you know what, highly skilled jobs, and we'll take them. Norton, they expect to close on their option to purchase by the end of June. I met with Greg Norton a couple weeks ago. He did ask about the management of the firewall and about the firewall in general. I know we had talked about it, Dave. So I basically advised him that currently we manage it for the county. It sits on county property. County pays all the bills associated with it. I did suggest that he work directly with the county as far as, is it something they want to take over? Because it does sit on county property. I'm not sure how that would.
I go to church with them, and I was in a hurry this last time, Lisa, because we did talk about talking to them. I think the main thing that we would be interested in is going back to REMC, which we talked about this at the council meeting, saying, hey, you're charging them this cheap rate. Put us on the same rate as that. Don't put us on some demand rate. It's connected to the bucket factory.
So no,
Like, we should
Norton
have
is
that right,
paying
so
a
we
different
still-
rate. Is that what you're saying?
Norton's
Okay.
paying a general rate for 3-phase power, and when we kick it on, we're paying that demand rate. Like, I think we need to renegotiate that again anyways, because we also haven't heard back from our,
Surplus, yeah.
Yeah.
right, that, and we might want to also touch bases with them on the fiber deal too. So probably maybe Mark and I or whoever, we could just talk to them about the firewall again.
I think we'll have an opportunity to do that a week from today.
All right, that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yay, planning commission. Right. So. This is gonna cost us. But,
What now?
yeah, I know. You're on the plan commission.
Yes, sir.
Tell me what we need to do here.
It's health insurance, really, that's a big factor on this.
Yes, it does.
Job descriptions, no, it's, I make a big dent in the budget and, what, at one time I was told that she was gonna also do, Robbie's job too, but I guess that's out of the question now.
So, yeah, especially if we get that ordinance and stuff changed on that behalf.
Basically what I'm asking from you guys is, I've invested 8 years already here and I've gained a lot of knowledge on this job. And I'm asking you to invest that knowledge that I've gained back into the county in, the future of our department. And, go from there, I feel I would be a good investment for the county long term.
I don't doubt that.
And that is what, when I come to you at the last meeting, because I had talked to Mary about a month prior, and she said, have I heard a rumor that she's thinking about looking for full-time employment? And I had mentioned, and I said no, and that's what I said, well, we're gonna do something. One thing that I had mentioned then was that she's the third secretary that we've had since I've been on the BZA board. And replacing people is gonna be harder to get qualified people. She's knowing it. The BZA office works jointly with the planning commission. I myself feel, hey, it's two different offices. We have a BZA budget, it comes before the commissioners and the council. And we have a part-time employee putting that budget together, running the administration of putting paperwork together for whoever needs to go out and do inspections. She co-works with Pam back and forth. And so I feel, yes, it's a true benefit to the county, that it would cost more to not have her as a full-time employee. And then when I do my thinking out all by myself, and that's been tough here lately, but it happened to dawn on me that, speaking of budget, she's administrator for the BZA office. I wondered, I don't know, is there any other offices in the county that has, that their office head is a part-time employee, not a full-time employee, that's putting budgets, administrative work together? So.
I have to agree, she does a good job. And, if Pam's not there, she answers my
Yes,
questions.
and we're an office that when somebody comes in and needs a permit or needs questions answered, we need to have somebody in the office. And they share responsibilities back and forth. Yes, it's a unique office because it's two working together as one. So.
Well, like the planning commission, we got one now, we put a stop work order on, and it goes to BZA and things like that. Justin's involved with that now. I talked a little bit with Justin and he said something about when he gets hold of Mary, it's just like, boom, he's got what he needs, you know what I mean? And I don't know if you wanna.
Yeah, I mean, and again, it's not my call to make. Compliance is not just with you guys, but with anybody, a big thing that we're hearing now, whether it's across the county, down below you guys, we have ordinances on the book. Why don't we? I mean, and it's not a matter of non-enforcement, it's a matter of personnel to be able to handle it. No secret here, your guys' two lakes are. That's where 90% of the enforcement issues come, with solar relocating here, and they're doing a nice job with both their projects, and I could say, at least for my part, very, very, very helpful, at least the job I do with the BZ, and I'm sure Mr. Bedrock will probably say the same with the planning commission. She's on it. I needed an executive session to talk about pending litigation a couple of weeks ago. I said, Mary, can you get an executive session going? Can you brief them? She did it. Compliance, again, is one of the big, big areas that we're seeing becoming a hot button topic for good reason. We've got a lot of ordinances. When you have 150, 60 years worth of ordinances on the book from units, and people will routinely come to council meetings and say, so, it's not even so much, oh, this is because it's a given. Mary does a good job. That's no one's going to argue that. It's moving forward. Is there additional tasks that can be alleviated from having to come before you all to coming before the BCA before it even gets to that point? You guys were all CC'd on an email from an individual over in Coons Lake before we told her that's not the proper channel to be emailing you guys directly. Again, compliance is just a big piece, and I think it'll continue to be so. Again, I can't speak to the budget end of things, but I can say that it is helpful having a county level say enforcement officer, but compliance officer to be able to look to and say, what are the details behind? So for what that's worth.
Are we still under a hiring freeze?
Yes, and so that I wanted to address that though, because Bose let me know that Justin had kind of complained that it's hard to get a hold of the BZA with them only being there for 2 days a week. So I kind of tried to work behind the scenes a little with Rachel just to see how can we make something manageable for this. And so then I went back to the office and we had a meeting on Friday. We were together for some time, and I think they've exhibited reasons why they want more hours in there at least. So at first I talked to Rachel, the best thing would have been to up their part-time budget to support 4 days a week instead of 2. Because on Fridays, I don't even know how much is going on Friday, but I don't want to get in the whole thing of it, but there's also a transition plan too, so I'll, the BZA, like, it's great that, the BZA is promoting that, but, I think there is a transition idea in the future as far as, potentially Mary leading that office. So I think then we'd have to make a choice. What do we do with that BZA position? Then theoretically, we go back to a part-time position in a set, what I mean? So there would be a change then, but long story short, my suggestion was, the big problem is we're also short cash on hand. Like Justin, you mentioned the budget, we're way underwater.
We're
I mean,
$1.6 million in the hole.
and building. So, but I also, after sitting down with the team, I wouldn't want to see us lose Mary either. I mean, with knowing from Pam what Mary knows how to do and what she does. But then also, because the council has questioned this, well, why don't the rest of the team then throw in and take some of those, because Mr. Troike had called the council and let them know that Mary does a lot of the work for everybody else in the office. So not only does she, she does a lot, so why couldn't they take on more of what, those kind of things that they could do, that way she can focus more on BZA. All that said, it's their office, and the council doesn't want to try to micromanage either, but the suggestion that I made was put in for more hours for the part-time, up to 39 hours for the fiscal 23. And then I already put, and I'll say this because I said it then, I will personally advocate, as long as I'm reelected on the council, that they do have a part-time person for that position starting 2024. Now, down the road, if there's a retirement in the office and Mary were to change positions to the head of that office, I would want to revisit that though too, just to see if we stay there, because I think more than anything, this is more about retention. Now, I'll say another thing, Mary wants to better herself. The big problem with the situation is she wants to start building a retirement. And I want to talk to the state, because I went to the auditors conference with Rachel a couple weeks ago, and they want to talk about retention. One of the things they talked about was us paying people more and some ways to do that. Another thing is a part-time person can't get on perf. And I think if the state would look at that and give them the opportunity, because sometimes those part-time people are married and they're on their husband's healthcare plans. So I'm reaching out to the state to consider legislation for that, because I think that would be huge. if she could work 39 hours, what if she could have the perk program? I mean, and honestly, until I talked to Mary the other day, I never even thought about that for part-time people, but that could be a huge retention, asset to be able to do that. So I think baby steps of it though, financially, I'd hate to see us not do something and, have the risk of, of
So
losing her.
what,
But
so for this year,
this year we have a budget, so, but for this
Right.
year's budget workshop, I would say, at the very least,
but as far as,
we let
as
them
far,
up
as
their
far
budget.
as, because the council would have to take action as far as salary ordinance anyway. For this year, you're suggesting the council's more amenable to just increasing her part-time hours,
I
and then
don't-
next year, moving it to a full-time
No,
position?
I'm saying 23, increase for the 23 budget, increase it. I mean, if worse comes to worse and we have to do a small additional at the end of this year, if there's some increase, but to actually budget it for next year. For an increase up to 39 hours for part-time.
I understand like what Dave's trying to accomplish with you guys financially. My only thing is that, I mean, that sounds all well and great for someone in the future, in 2 years. My question is to you though, I've stuck around here already for 8 years.
Mhm.
And I don't really think it's fair to ask me to stick around for another 2 years on the promise that I would then at that point be made a full-time employee. I'm asking for that now.
I don't think they necessarily
No.
disagree that it needs to be full-time. It's just, how are we gonna fund it?
Yeah,
I
That's
yeah,
the-
I get
that's-
that.
that's the ugly part of it is,
We're at the point where we may be taking away jobs.
Right. I mean, that's what the state says, to cut. And, what they want us to do is they want us to cut jobs. And so, we don't want to do that. I mean, the argument would be is we've had other full-time jobs open.
I feel like our department though, this year, we've taken in a lot more money than we normally do. And, I feel like it would be a good investment to maybe use some of that money and invest it back into our department in that, way.
I mean, what you're taking in this year, okay, that's gonna go toward the 2023,
I
2024
understand.
budget. That does not help the
I
twenty
understand
twenty-two
that.
budget.
I understand that. I'm just
and it
saying,
really doesn't affect the cash flow shortfalls we got right now.
No. You have one department that is drowning county general. So do something with that department and you might be able to help other departments. I've said this for years, EMS is drowning county general. It has been since 2019. Am I wrong?
You're right. And Mark and I actually are, joining forces on working on some things there too. Have some creativity.
Never used to, but it started doing it in 2019, 2020 when you put in the transfer unit.
I mean, honestly, like Rachel said, what I can say is I'm only one person. But there's 6 members of the council tonight that are gonna say we're under hiring freeze.
Mhm. I mean, that too, you're gonna have to look that before you.
But it's not a new position, it's already an existing.
It is a new
It's-
position, it's a new full-time
Yeah,
position.
it's because it's an expansion to full-time, it's considered new. For
In the
purposes of
state,
that
in the
five
state,
hiring
when
freeze.
if that was created, they'd have to post that job, not just off, what I mean, they would have.
When are we gonna get our next draw? In June?
It'll be beginning of June. Settlement this year, we scheduled on May 31st, so a couple days after that.
Yeah, that's it.
Mhm.
Gonna be, not yet.
I'm hoping a lot.
Yeah, hopefully it got way out of the hole.
Well, it'll get us out of the hole until about August.
You're right. Then we'll go right back in the hole.
Open to suggestions.
That's a good question. What to do, everybody thinks she does a great job, so
I know, I don't want to lose it.
I don't. Years.
And I will tell you, the other part-time departments that have someone that wants to go full-time, they'll start hearing.
Yeah, and
And there's other, I mean, there's other full-time positions open in the county too. You can always transfer and then transfer right back. When this did become available.
Then you're gonna take somebody with a knowledge of an office out of that.
That's the thing,
office
yeah.
And put somebody in, it's gotta be trained.
But in fairness to what Mr. Troiki's saying, that's the BZA secretary. The second person actually is the inspector. I mean, should, you know what I mean? Pam's got assistants in there too through Bose. I mean, the fact that Mary's stuck doing those other things for the other departments, technically she's the BZA secretary, right? Is that right?
But she also does planning commission work. When Pam's not on vacation, when on sick days, she's the one doing all that work. She's not simply the BZA secretary.
Well, you know what? I actually advocated for her hours increase, so I'm not arguing against it. I'm trying to offer a way to make it work, so.
The puzzle isn't justifying the need. We've done that. The puzzle is finding money where there is none.
I guess the way I look at it is you're looking at 39 versus 40. The big thing is, unless I'm wrong, you tell me, Mary, like we talked about the fact that it was really the perf you wanted to get started sooner. That was the big problem. It wasn't, our problem is that we can't just give you perf and not give you the medical.
I'm not going to be needing health insurance. That's not something I'm gonna be taking from the county. I have health insurance through my husband. So, I mean, my biggest thing is I wanna be more financially stable.
Yeah.
And, you know, with the current, you know, situation of what's going on, which I'm sure all of you guys are feeling the pain as much as I am in your wallets. You know, it's, you know, in my best interest to look for a full-time job. I'm looking for something for my future to where I can have, you know, I can go start somewhere, you know, a full-time job and start a 401k, you know. I have nothing like that right now. I'm looking for something like that.
Yeah.
Because if you are, I need the claims done before you guys adjourn in 5 minutes.
Okay.
Do you want to table it until you see what the council does tonight?
Would like to send the council, you know, with my blessing.
Okay. Then we'll table this pending council feedback. You guys are gonna go, they're on the agenda for, yeah, so figure out what solution the council finds acceptable, and then we'll go from there.
I just explained the olive branch, but I feel like the council's gonna say is, we're in a hiring freeze and leave it at that.
Okay.
So we'll let if that's what you like, Mark, that's what you do, sir.
Okay. All right.
Thanks,
Okay.
I tried.
We've gone over this. This is the ordinance that came out of our discussion. We have a motion to approve the ordinance. Do we have to do anything special for this?
No.
For second, third readings, whatnot?
No, not two against.
I'll entertain a motion to accept the ordinance adopting the Starke County American Rescue Plan Act expenditure plan. With the motion and second, all are in favor? Signature needs to be done here.
Charlie.
Yeah, I mean.
Entertain a motion to approve the minutes of Monday, May 2nd. Motion and second, all are in favor? Have for us, request for annex key. Says annex key at the top, but this is to approve issuing a key to the warehouse to Surveyor Bill Crace. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the vendor claims in the amount of $218,662.80. Motion and second, all are in favor? Is there a motion to approve the payroll claim and allowance docket in the amount of $275,398.41? Motion and second, all are in favor? And we'll do this. Is there any other business before this board? Yes. quick.
Yes. Nobody else responded except for you about visiting the solar fields. Is the week after next okay with you? Chris said he could be in town for that. We really haven't decided today, but
After next, I think I have a few meetings.
just want to get back to me on it.
We'll talk.
Do you want Richard to mention his domain?
Oh, yeah. Richard,
quick.
quickly,
1 minute.
because you're gonna tell the council about this too.
Pretty much what this is more of a heads up. Our county is gonna be doing a domain change. What that means is we are gonna go from co.starke.us. We are getting issued domains and certificates, which means we're gonna save money. We're gonna be more compliant with the state when it comes to applying for grants. IDHS, come third quarter, if we do not have an in.gov domain, they will not be supplying us grants. They will not approve grants.
And
So that is
they've already set aside Starke.in.u.
correct.
Go for
Correct.
us.
They have purchased in.gov. They own in.gov.
Mhm.
So what they are doing is all the municipalities in the state, whether it's Porter, whoever, they're not gonna give Starke.in.gov to another county because they are not Starke.
So how long are we gonna hold the old in.us for the transition?
So we only have three different actual full certs. One's our VPN, one's our email, and one is our phone system. The phone system and the VPN is all done in the background, so we can get those at any time and implement those at any time. We just purchased the mail cert, so we're good on our current cert, which is co.starke.us.
That doesn't expire until.
That does not expire until next May.
Okay.
So we are gonna have co.starke.us. Our emails are also gonna have in.gov. So when anybody sends an email out, it's gonna show up as in.gov. But they're also gonna be able to receive their emails at co.starke, and they're also gonna be able to receive emails at in.gov. Come May 2023, we will not have co.starke.
Okay.
So
we
we
have
will not be receiving any.
So we have a
emails at
full year to
co.starke.
do that transition.
We have a full year to start working on that transition. That's why I brought it to everybody's attention now, so I can get the domain in place, get the certs in place, and we can start utilizing everything. So everybody's got time to transition.
Okay.
That's it.
Anything else? Anything else? Motion to adjourn.